Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show, hosted by John Prue, a respected MWR leader with nearly 40 years of experience. This show explores the people, ideas, and innovations shaping military recreation and strengthening the quality of life for service members, veterans, and military families across the globe. In this episode, we're joined by Dr. Julie Knapp, Tara Culbertson, and Kristen Riddle for an inspiring conversation about how Indiana University has become a launching pad for generations of military recreation professionals. Together, they share their career journeys, the life-changing impact of internships, and the leadership experiences that have shaped MWR programs around the world. Discover how one university, passionate mentors, and a commitment to service continue to make a lasting difference for military communities everywhere. This is On the Front Line, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in. Not every job happens behind a desk. Some happen where decisions are made in seconds, where pressure is real, and where people show up no matter what. This is the Front Line. It's where service meets reality, where responsibility isn't optional, and where impact is measured in people, not headlines. We follow the men and women who stand first to respond, first to protect, first to act when it matters most. They don't do it for recognition. They do it because someone has to. On this show, we go where the work happens, beyond the uniforms, beyond the titles, beyond the noise. We hear the stories, the challenges, the moments that test them, and the purpose that keeps them going. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. Real people, real pressure, real service. This is where it begins. Stories from the front.
All right, it is 13:30 on Tuesday, 23 June 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue, as the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation. We talk to professionals in the industry who are in some way making a difference in the quality of life of our military and their families. Now, out there, you might be a morale, welfare, and recreation, or MWR professional who directly supports quality of life for our military and their families each and every day. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're a business or organization who directly supports or wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. Maybe you are a public parks and recreation professional just curious about that thing called military recreation and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. All right, we have a fascinating show today featuring the Indiana University and their Parks and Recreation program for many armed forces recreation professionals, which have been produced out of that program over the last 42 years. Uh, since since a guy by the name of Dan Sharpless in started this pipeline probably over 40 years ago. It's been a wild ride and lots of professionals that have come through it. Today we're going to talk to Julie Knapp from Indiana University. And we are also talking to a couple people from the field. We have Tara Culbertson from Naval Air Facility at Sugi, Japan, and Kristen Riddle from Naval Station Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida. We just might have a few more surprises and a surprise guest along the way. Just saying. So excited for the conversation today. As you know, we are part of an amazing media company called Daily Parks and Rec, or DPRS. DPRS Media exists to honor the park and recreation industry, reflecting on the stories and highlighting the careers and celebrating the real pros who are doing the essential work in our communities. And that includes our military communities. As usual, want to give a shout out to our producer today, Jovi. She is behind the scenes, pulling up trends, pulling up graphics, moving through transitions as we go back and forth, and trying to keep me in check. And that's usually a chore. So Jovi, in advance, thank you for what you're doing. I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, for always allowing us this opportunity to have this weekly podcast focused solely on military recreation and the great work being done out there. Okay, side note, our past episodes are being loaded up on the YouTube channel. We do some post-production with that, so we've got a pretty good playlist right now on YouTube. You can just search out On the Front Line or the Daily Park and Rec Show. You can easily find us, and the audio files are all being uploaded almost instantaneously onto Spotify. So another way to archive our shows, and also another way for you to consume the podcast. So excited about that. I know Jovi's involved, especially on the Spotify side. So thank you so much, Jovi. Today's show sponsor is Outdoor Link. If you want to turn on your entire city on and off with the swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities connecting your park lights, your splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled from any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you'd like to hear more or learn more about Outdoor Link, tune into the Smart Parks Forward Show with Dave Ramirez on the second and fourth Mondays at 1:30 Eastern on the DPRS network. We're going to see a short promo about Outdoor Link, and we're also going to see one on something near and dear to my heart, which is JDP Services Management Consulting. So, Jovi, why don't you take us to the spots, and I promise we'll be right back.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, welcome back. All right, this is the portion of the show or podcast that we typically go around the world and look at a bunch of different programs that are happening around the world. And we are rolling right up to the 4th of July celebration. Lots of huge events going on if you're checking the social media channels. So we're gonna kind of bypass that, and we're gonna take a look. Other than to say there are literally hundreds of events that are being run in connection with the 4th of July, the 250th anniversary. Some of these events are completely open to the public events. Some of them are modified versions. Some of them are just on base only. But the bottom line is you have tens of thousands of people at some of the larger bases coming out to these large holiday events. And we are going to take a good look in the weeks ahead at kind of the back end, the post-event production. And we actually are hoping to get a few people on from some of these larger events back on and talk about how it went and the planning process and some of those really difficult challenges. But I do believe that's where MWR and everybody in that industry really stands out. We do an awesome job with holiday and special events, and there's going to be a lot of them here in the next week. So we'll stand put. But I do want to bring our guests in and talk a little bit about the show today. So as Jovi are bringing them in, I want to talk about Indiana University, currently housed in the School of Public Health at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. Parks and Recreation, Outdoors, and Tourism is a program that's been around for nearly 80 years with the university and has been literally an incubator for leaders in environmental stewardship to community well-being of all kinds. They're diverse and expansive alumni, and we're going to meet some of them here today. Actively manage municipal park systems. They provide leadership to a number of non-for-profits and government agencies, including morale, welfare, and recreation programs across the services and around the world. So I would like to introduce three distinguished IU alumni who have had exposure to armed forces recreation and exposure, and some of them a lot of exposure to armed forces recreation or MWR around the world. First of all, Dr. Julie Knapp, clinical assistant professor from Indiana University. Secondly, we have Tara Culbertson, the Fleet Readiness and MWR Director at Naval Air Facility at Sugi, Japan. And last but not least, Kristen Riddle, MWR Operations Manager at Naval Station Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida. So glad to have all of you on the podcast today. So welcome to On the Front Line. All right. Okay, before we get started here, okay, you all have to collectively, I didn't tell you this, you all have to collectively sing your college fight song. Ready? Go. No? Nothing?
Not good, yeah. National champions, that's what we could say.
There we go. Yes. You've turned from a basketball school, I mean, notorious basketball school, basketball program, to now a football school. Who would ever thought that? I never thought I would live that long.
Never.
So to kind of have our audience take a look at what you do, I want to kind of go around and get a little bit of a feel for your background. Very brief introduction I gave the audience on who you are, but tell us a little more about what you've done from going through Indiana University all the way to, where you are today. So, Tara, I'm going to start with you.
Okay,
You want
thanks,
to
John.
walk us through your career?
Okay, so I didn't necessarily call it recreation, but even before college, did some work with 4-H and was a lifeguard, worked in aquatics. Went to Indiana University, which is about 3.5 hours away from my hometown in central Kentucky, and just loved it. After initially not sure what I was going to major in, decided to switch to a degree in recreation and sport management, and got to do required to do an internship between junior and senior year, and had decided to go back to my hometown and work in the aquatics program. And advisors Dan Sharpless and Dan McLean said, "No, Tara, we think you've learned what you're going to learn there over the past few summers." And said, "But we have this thing for you maybe in Scotland." And so
Wow.
I didn't know anything about the military really, or that option career. Went off to Edzell, Scotland, and did an internship in 1992. Decided I loved it, was making a whole $150 a week. I was like, I'm rich. um, and yeah, had to come back and complete my senior year. I graduated in 1993, just a few years ago. Afterwards, as we have in the government, there was a hiring
don't
freeze.
feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't feel bad. You don't want to hear when I graduate.
Thank you. So anyway, I had to come back to IU and do another year of school before graduating. And then, as we have in the government, there was a hiring freeze, could not get on with MWR immediately. Worked for a city, Parks and Rec, for about 1.5 years, and then was able to get on in Ingleside, Texas, as a special events coordinator. At that time, a brand new base that had no facilities. So did a lot of special events outdoors there. And then I've worked a little bit all over the place since then. I've been, as I said, inside Texas, joined the Navy at one point, then came to Earl, New Jersey, then to Mayport, Florida, where Kristen is now, and then became an MWR director in Barking Sands, Hawaii. Paradise right there, a great place to go. Then Kingsville, Texas, outside Corpus Christi. And then ever since then, I've been overseas in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Singapore, and now Japan. So I've done, at this point, 31 years working for Navy MWR, and it's just been an amazing ride. And so glad, honestly, that I kind of tripped into this thanks to IU and some advisors that suggested that I go and do a military rec internship. So here I am many, many years later, and I've just been so grateful for that.
Yeah, quite the adventure, and a great story put out by our headquarters on your 3 decades of that. You probably didn't like the way they put 3 decades in there. But I think the gist of it was pretty cool ride, and kudos to you. And you are an MWR director of a gold medal winning organization a couple years back. So congrats to that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. My CO just asked me yesterday, we have that as part of our integrated into our name tag, the gold medal. And he said, so that was just like a 1-year thing, or when are you going to take that off your name tags? And I'm like, never. That was such an achievement. We're going to keep that. We are so proud of that. And we are never taking that off our name tags.
We won ours at Great Lakes in 2012, and I rode that as long as I could ride it. I'm still riding it. I'm not even at Great Lakes.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Kristen, tell us about your adventure.
Yes. So like Tara, I went to college not having any idea what I wanted to do. I'm from a bit further away. I grew up outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and decided I wanted to go to school far away from home, but not too far. Landed on IU and loved Bloomington from the minute I got there. I had no idea. I looked at social work. I looked at physical education. I looked at a couple of other things until I found the recreation program. I didn't even know it existed going into IU. I fell in love with it right away. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I had done a couple of summers at a local city Parks and Rec program before college. So that was my ultimate goal at that point. Graduated from IU in 2009 after completing an internship at Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay. Had no military experience at all, but Julie had actually talked about it in class at one point, and I said, "Oh, that sounds cool." And the Navy had just rolled out a new internship program when I was looking, so was lucky enough to get in on that group. Went to Kings Bay, spent 3 months down there, loved it. Knew that's what I wanted my career to be. Graduated right after that, and was lucky enough to get a full-time position at Naval Air Station Kingsville, working under Tara as the intramural sports and aquatics coordinator. So I ran all the intramural sports programs and the pools there. Because it was a small installation, I was able to get my hands in all over. So I learned special events. I learned a little bit of the childcare world. I learned the food and beverage world. I learned a little bit of everything, and was able to get an opportunity to come out to Jacksonville a couple of years later and start a job at Mayport. I ran the special events and a community center at Naval Station Mayport. Grew there for a number of years, worked in that position, and was lucky enough to get an opportunity to move to Naval Air Station Jacksonville, which is just down the road, about 45 minutes away. So I didn't even have to leave home. To be their community recreation director, where I oversaw tickets and travel, a Liberty program, event rental equipment, and different programs and special events as well. A few years later, I came home to Mayport, is what we say. Came back over to Mayport as the operations manager, which is my current position. I oversee 15 different programs within the recreation world, including fitness, golf, RV parks, bowling, food and beverage, and community recreation programs. So I've been doing this for 16 years now. I like Tara. I'm very happy and thankful that I fell into it and had people take a chance on me along the way and end up where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I can attest you have a great program. One of the last accreditation visits I did was your base, and just awesome program and a great team, and you do such a great job leading them. So awesome stuff. A little bit different, not as wide out in terms of moving. You kind of stayed close to that Jacksonville area at that point. So that's a little different track. But again, being able to move over up to move on is kind of something that we see in the military rec field. Okay, changing gears. Julie, you come from the academia representing Indiana University. Please tell us a little bit about how you came into contact with military recreation and what you're doing today.
Sure. Thanks, John. Yeah, so I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and I grew up in Nebraska. I did not know about military recreation either. And so...
Time out.
Yes.
Did you have one of those big corn things they wear, the corn husker hats?
You know, I did not, but I did go to school in the late 80s, early 90s during the big football heyday. So
they were good. Yeah.
Yes, but I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I went to the University of Nebraska. I always worked at camps when I was, in high school, and then also through college. I was heavily into aquatics as well, and worked a bit for city parks and recreation departments. So I was really a recreation kid. Both of my parents were phys ed majors. And so I knew as a freshman at the University of Nebraska that I wanted to be a recreation major. When I got to my senior year, I had a professor, Dr. Murphy, who said, "Oh, there's this option with the Navy to go do an internship somewhere abroad." And so I said, "Fantastic, sign me up." And so I actually did my internship with Navy MWR in Sasebo, Japan. And so after my internship, I ended up working for about, almost 4 years with the YMCA. So I worked in Florida, Central Florida, and then in Kansas. And then I decided I wanted to go back to school. And I knew that Indiana University was like the best in the country, looking at recreation programs. And so I chose to apply to Indiana University along with a few other colleges. But once I got that acceptance from IU, I jumped on it. So I completed my master's and then also decided to stick around for a PhD. And so after completing my PhD, I taught at Indiana State University in Terre Haute for a year, but then I was in the sport management kind of arm of that program. And so I came back to IU and ended up working in the Recreation, Park, and Tourism Studies department. So that was the name of the department for many, many, many years. And I really have been on faculty full-time, probably since around 2004. I have 2 children, so took some part-time years in there. But I've been teaching at IU for, now full-time, almost 22 years. In my role, I also serve as the internship coordinator. So that is where I get to hopefully, talk to the students about these options of where they can intern within the realm of parks, recreation, and the outdoors. And I'm happy to say that many, like to hear about my story, interning with Navy MWR, and also, kind of raise their hand and say, I might be interested in doing that too. I'm also fortunate enough to teach a class that is the Foundations of Parks, Recreation, and the Outdoors. And so this is typically a freshman and a sophomore level class. And so I teach them about the public sector, the nonprofit sector, and the private sector related to parks and recreation. And so I have a unit where I spend time on just MWR. And so that is a big aha moment, I think, for a lot of students that just had no idea that just like municipal parks and recreation, we have this other arm that are serving, families and communities that are on military installations. And so it's kind of interesting to expose students to the world of MWR that had no idea that that there was something like it out there.
Yeah. I quick history on me. I went to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. That was kind of the big park and rec university in the state of Wisconsin. And I wish they would have had a class like that. Or I missed that class. I blew it off or something. I had no idea that there was a military recreation component. And I found out by chance last second as I was deciding on internships. Somebody told me about this Great Lakes Naval Station. First question was, well, okay, I'm going to join the Navy to do parks and recreation. No, thank you. And then I got coaxed into doing an interview down there. And next thing I know, some of you might know him, Tom Linscott. He was the deputy director at Great Lakes at the time. Anyways, he had a fabulous career in the MWR world. Anyways, he told me all these cool things that they had, like marinas and movie theaters and ticket and travel offices and golf course. And I'm like, okay, this will look good in my resume. So let's sign up. Let's do this. And what I thought was going to be 16 weeks ended up to be 34 years at Great Lakes. So I'm kind of the oddball in this situation. But again, the idea that a lot of us didn't know there was really this, really an armed forces recreation or military recreation. The fact you're talking about in class is really awesome. And I want to talk a little bit about internships, but we'll circle back to that. I do want to know, you kind of alluded to it, both Tara and Kristen, but what was the actual trigger point? What made you decide? And Kristen, we'll start with you. You're up in Minnesota. You're much closer to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, where you could have went. But again, you weren't sure you were going into recreation. But what was the trigger point to say, yeah, I want to go to Indiana University?
So for me, I wanted to go to a place where I didn't know anybody. I wanted to go somewhere new and somewhere different. My sister had gone to school at Arizona State. So she had gone really far away, and I wanted a similar experience, but somewhere I could drive. So toured, I went on a college tour, visited Notre Dame, visited Purdue, visited Indiana, and then ended our tour at Miami University of Ohio. So looked at all those schools, really just came back and said, I think IU is it. I was in the honors program and really liked what I saw there. I wanted to go to a big, Big Ten, big sports school, which, sounded like a lot of fun. So I landed there, and I'm very thankful I did. Some of my, my best friends to this day are people I met freshman year at Indiana. So I'm thankful for the chance I had to go there, and that's where I landed. But yeah, really it was a big school with a lot of options because I didn't know what to do, and somewhat far away from home was what I was looking for.
Awesome. Tara, same thing for you, or what was your trigger point?
So for me, a school where I knew literally no one and was ready to get out of that high school environment and reinvent myself. And so it was about 3.5 hours away for me. I also could drive. I admit I was very interested in the Greek system, and IU at that time had the world's largest fraternity and sorority system. My parents were both Greek, and so that was a little bit of a pull for me. And I know in the movies it's portrayed, sometimes as a really negative thing. It was just really a great experience for me as someone who literally knew no one, and so instantly had a kind of a network and a support system and some organization that forced me to make grades and study and do well and kind of embrace that side of it. I skipped kindergarten as a little kid, so I went off to college barely 17. So I needed that support system and some mature mentoring to kind of help me through. But I also did a college visit like Kristen and was just blown away at how cool it was, and the old beautiful limestone buildings and everything. So I think breaking away had a big influence on me also, and it just looked really, really cool, the whole cycling program and stuff. So off I went.
Yeah, awesome. And Julie, moving from one Big Ten university to the next, was that at all a struggle for you to go, oh, I'm going to Indiana? I've lived my whole life in Lincoln, Nebraska. I am a corn hunter, true and true. How did you do that?
Yeah, well, actually, back in the day, we were part of the Big Eight, so I didn't know anything about the Big Ten.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, yeah. But no, I was excited. I had some years of full-time experience under my belt before getting my master's, and so I really, truly was interested in a great program and that was focused on parks and recreation. And IU was pretty much the clear winner, and also they gave me a graduate assistantship, and so that kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah. I want to talk about internships. I think we could spend a whole episode just talking about internships, especially the future of internships as it relates to military recreation, or MWR. And I see Tara with a big smile because we've had these discussions on the side. We're not going to go there, but I do want to talk about the importance of your internships and also what Julie's talking to her students right now. And not that they may not go to military recreation or an MWR facility, but how does it come up in conversation? What's the decision points and the importance of those internships, which probably sealed the deal. There's no way I would had the career I did if I didn't, reluctantly go to Great Lakes for 16 weeks. And I think it's the same thing. So we're going to do a couple quick promos right now, but we're going to come right back and we're going to talk internships. And then we have some special guests too coming up in the episode that are going to make an appearance as well. So Jovi, go ahead and take it away. We'll be right back.
They say it's Just Rec. Just Rec, where kids learn to try again. Just Rec, where confidence begins. where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
All right, we are back. So Julie, I'm going to start with you on internships. What's the feel for where students want to go and what they want to do for the requirement? And is it a 12 credit, 16 credit? I mean, it wouldn't be a 16 credit, maybe a 12 credit or 8 credit internship program at Indiana right now?
Yeah, it's a 12 credit program. It's a semester long experience. So in the fall and spring semesters, the students have to do at least 14 weeks at 40 hours a week. So it's a 560-hour experience. In the summer, it's a bit shorter, 480 hours at 12 weeks. But yeah, the students, they've changed over the years. So when Kristen did her internship and when Tara did hers, totally kind of a different group of students that we're seeing now. I'm seeing some that are very adventurous and they want to leave the state and they want to try something new and really push themselves. And then I have some that are just really wanting to stick around in Indiana, not really push themselves too far out of their comfort zone. But I am a parent of a college student. And so I am trying my darndest to really tell them, you're not going to grow, right, if you don't kind of stretch yourself. And so putting yourself into uncomfortable and unknown positions is the way that you're going to grow and really kind of figure out what you want to do. And so that's really my motto, and just kind of what I say to them all the time is, be uncomfortable. It's okay to fail. Push yourself. And some of them, I think, take that to heart. Others don't. But I am seeing quite a few of our students wanting to do, some unusual internships and really kind of push themselves. The most recent student that has participated in an MWR internship was through the Coast Guard in Puerto Rico. So she completed her internship this past fall of 2025, but is all about MWR and wanting to land a full-time position in military recreation. So, we're not having 40 students all wanting to jump into military recreation, but we have some that are really interested, and I really am excited about that.
Yeah. For the ones that don't want to go away from the university, is it a cost issue? Because obviously you need to, in most cases, have to figure out your housing situation, unless you're going to work for a resort or someplace like that provides that. Is that kind of the decision point, or is it just truly nerve-wracking to be away from?
Sure. Yeah,
reality?
I do think some of it is, I have a lease. I need to, not have to pay for rent. But I do explain to students, if you do take that internship at a resort or MWR, wherever, if they're providing you housing, right, it's still going to kind of be a wash for you. So yes, there is that piece that, the affordability piece, but a lot of these internships that, require you to move a distance, they are going to either give you a pretty decent pay so that you can afford to have, pay for housing or get an Airbnb, or they're going to provide you with housing. And so that's usually, a good reason for students to kind of consider, okay, I can push myself if I'm going to have housing and some money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate right now. I think all the services are trying to figure out how to bring back internships, but they haven't got through some of the legal hurdles. Homeland Security has figured it out, which the Coast Guard falls under, and they have it's a small program. They only have, a handful of bases, and only a couple of them are actually seeking internships. But it's a struggle. I'm so glad you're talking about it in your class. But if they don't have a springboard to actually go do an internship, that just all we've done is tease them for after their internship to maybe look for a job with us from that standpoint. So Tara, you went to Scotland prior to completing your degree. That had to be scary, but how much did that influence your career, your internship experience?
It was everything, honestly. I just was amazed at the variety of services, whereas Parks and Rec is often, community centers and fields and the like. They had a complete childcare program. They had restaurants. They had a cinema, a bowling center. And so, the other thing was just that it was almost like a college setting. But our customers had some money and they wanted to get out and experience things. I just remember thinking, just as a student myself in college, you didn't really go on dates. You just kind of went out as a group because no one had any money. And so, going to a Navy MWR program, our sailors are earning a living, they have a salary and their homes are for. And so they were eager to get out. And so they were just starting this thing called the Single Sailor Program. And so I was able to take people on trips, whitewater rafting and, things that just were so cool that I didn't have necessarily the discretionary income to participate in myself as a student. And I just loved that I felt like they needed us. And that was so fulfilling professionally. And
Okay,
I just loved it.
I have to ask you real quickly. Now, this might be really dating me. Were they calling it the Single Sailor Program, or were they calling it Young Adult Program or YAP?
I think that sounds right. That it may have been the YAP program.
Then I'm dating both of us.
Yes. I don't, and again, maybe this was because I was 20 years old and didn't get the full picture, but it was not necessarily no alcohol in that program. Certainly we didn't have the focus on alcohol, but one of the trips that I ran in Scotland was called a pony trekking pub crawl. So we went on horseback to a number of different pubs. And we joked that, if you were a little tipsy at the end, you could, the horse knew the way home. It was just this, silly thing, but apparently it was a thing in Scotland and it was a thing for this base. And nobody got, intoxicated, but it was just really fun to go around and try, the different lagers and stuff and see the foods offered at the different pubs and experience horseback riding. That wasn't necessarily something that I did a lot of. And so I was just like, this is amazing. We have our own bars, we have our own restaurants. And I knew at that point that that's what I wanted to do when I entered the workforce completely.
Yeah, and we're not going to get too far into it, but in plenty of my previous guests that served overseas, what you do overseas versus what you do in continental United States sometimes a little bit different, but that's okay. It's a different.
Yeah.
Everybody's together. It's more of a community where
Hmm.
continental United States typically is a little bit more of a commuter type base. I mean, even with the staff and everything else, there's just certain things
Hmm.
you can do. And to fit into the culture, if it fits in with the culture, then it's okay. As long as you're not doing the pony ride beer tasting event every night of the week.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I've prepped it, I think, twice already about special guests here. We have some other alumni that would like to say something. So I'm giving Jovi a few seconds here to get ready to load a video, but we have a few um, senior alumni. Well, not so much on one, but either way, proud alumni that wanted to say hi and be a part of this. So bear with me. And Jovi, if you want to pull up the video, let's hear what they have to say.
Hi, I'm Tim Campbell, 1985 graduate of Indiana with my master's in Park and Recreation Administration. I was a graduate assistant for Professor Dan Sharpless, and he was a major influence on my career and that of many students. Dan created the first ever military recreation class in 1984 that led to students getting internships at military installations around the world. My career included Naval Station Charleston, South Carolina, Headquarters Navy MWR in Washington, D.C. and Millington, Tennessee, Naval Support Activity Mid-South, Naval Construction Battalion Center, Gulfport, Mississippi, Naval Air Station Key West, where I retired as the MWR director and a 33-year career. I now live in Tennessee. I enjoy traveling and photography and watching Indiana football. Go Hoosiers.
Hi, my name is Keith Hill. I'm a 1985 graduate from Indiana University with my degree in Parks and Recreation. Immediately upon graduating from Indiana, I took a job with MWR in Charleston, South Carolina as a fleet recreation specialist. I was down in Charleston for almost 5 years and did the fleet recreation specialist job as well as doing the single sailor coordinator position while I was down there. I went over to Sasebo, Japan for 5 years, where I was the recreation director, athletic director, aquatics coordinator, and special event division manager while I was over in Sasebo, Japan. From Sasebo, I went to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where I was a sports, fitness, and outdoor recreation division manager for 2 years. Upon leaving Guantanamo Bay, I went to Rota, Spain, where I was the regional deployed forces coordinator with oversight over the 6 fleet centers, which were scattered around the Mediterranean at the time. Upon leaving Rota, Spain after 2 years, I went to Sugar Grove, West Virginia, where I was the MWR director for a little over 15 years. When the base was scheduled to close down, I actually took a job back over in Rota, Spain as the MWR director, where I stayed for about 2 years over there. I returned to the Mid-Atlantic region as a ceremonial events coordinator and ended up working for N94 while I was there as a resource and integration program manager. So that entails about 40 years of service for me with MWR. I'd like to shout out to Dan Sharpless, who got me started in the military recreation at Indiana University. He told me to give it a try to see if I liked it. Dan, so far, I liked it a lot. Upon retirement from MWR, I worked for the City of Louisville Parks and Recreation Department, where I run one of their aquatic parks during the summertime. I'd like to give a shout out to Indiana football. Never did I think we would be national champions of football. As a matter of fact, when I was at Indiana, we were actually a basketball school. Go IU.
Hey John, Token Barnhouse here. And I just want to say thank you so much for including me in this amazing tribute to Indiana University and Armed Forces Recreation. I am a proud IU alum, and I am a proud Armed Forces Recreation professional, 22 years in my service and continuing on while I'm not actively in the field, and co-authoring some collegiate textbooks on having a career with meaning. My Armed Forces Recreation journey started when I was a youth as a Navy brat, continued on through being a gym rat and a lifeguard, and completing my bachelor's studies and my master's studies in the School of Hyper at Indiana. I was joined by my mom, 93 to 97, which was a super cool experience. And I will say that I was so fortunate and blessed to have grown up in a family of service where my mom and dad, both having served active duty in the Navy, also serving long civilian careers and fleet and family readiness and morale, welfare, recreation programs. We served around the world and in every location, had amazing connections with our IU family. We love it. We are so blessed to have been touched by professionals like Dr. Craig Ross, Dr. Lynn Jameson, Dr. Dan McLean, Julie Knapp, both as a graduate assistant and a doctor and a major supporter of recreation, not just in armed forces, but across so many different career paths. IU has a long tradition of service and has created the atmosphere and the discipline that brings strong professionals who just simply get it, serving people and making that impact every day. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody. Go IU.
All right. See, I knew you guys would not sing the fight song, so I had to sneak it in there one way or another. So. All right. Yeah, a few other people we talked to or tried to get connected to put this video tribute together, but a couple other people we want to talk about. Terry York is another one that's been out there, had a long-lasting career from IU. Dan Fitzgerald, Kelly Powell, coach as we refer to him. Kyle Rodas, still in the system. I believe he's still out in Monterey. Dick Carlson, Phil McCann, and then of course Token's parents, Dan and Terry Barnhouse. So just some IU alum who eventually went into the MWR quality of life arena to take care of our military around the world. So pretty cool stuff and a pretty cool tradition. I wish I could say I went to IU. I didn't, but I do love the tradition. So. Hey, want to change gears here a little bit, and talking. It was referenced out there about Dan Sharpless and such a great guy, and anyone that knows a little bit about the history of Armed Forces Recreation, from being active duty military himself to being a leader with NRPA and a past president of the Armed Forces Recreation Society, which is now the Armed Forces Recreation Network. So kind of, it was more powerful then. So I don't want to say it's equal to what myself and Kristen went through as the chair of the network, because the society was a force back in the day. And he was also on the board of trustees for NRPA, not to mention all the other goodness he did. But Julie, you know him pretty well. Anything you want to say about Dan and his importance to not only the program at IU, but the industry of Armed Forces Recreation?
Yeah, he was great. And I didn't know Dan until I came to Indiana University to get my master's and my PhD. But once he found out that I did an internship with the Navy, he was like, oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And we, developed a great friendship. And we actually used to share an office together. So he was an academic advisor and I was part-time academic advising as well. But he also, not only just with, MWR internships and kind of promoting it that way, but a great relationship was established through Dan with Kilauea Military Camp in Hawaii on the Big Island. And then also a great partnership that I have been keeping alive with Edelweiss Resort. So that was another partnership that Dan really forged. And Neil Moore was there, and I believe he still is, the HR director. And Neil would come to IU 2 times a year and interview IU students. And so we still have an IU contingency that goes over for 15 months. And works at the resort. And that is all thanks to Dan. And, you know, when he retired, he was like, "You're going to continue this on." And I was like, "Of course." So
Okay.
I kind of took over.
I love the Edelweiss. It's a great benefit, hidden secret. All those resorts that the Army run, you know, a lot of them know, you know, shades of green, you know, the ones that are very popular around here, but they've got them all over the world. They're great. So is there any age restrictions on being a student at IU? Because I want to get in that pipeline to go to the Edelweiss.
No, hey, just, reach out. I'll see what I can do for you.
Perfect. And to share a story, why I knew of Dan was Indiana used to take their students in the mid 80s. I don't know how long they ended up doing it, but in the mid 80s, they used to take their students out to local bases. I think they went down to Fort Campbell. They would go to Scott Air Force Base on occasion, and typically they would go to Naval Station Great Lakes. I think that was pretty annual just because of large size scope, the Navy's only boot camp, and they would come up there. Well, in 1987, in my first year of employment after they hired me as their first intern at Great Lakes, of course I got tagged to go along on the tour with the IU students. So you know, tell them about my experiences, tell them what it's like to work here as a first year MWR. But I got a chance to really just talk with him, and he's one of those guys, if you talk to, he gives you the history, he gives you the background, and you can just get swallowed up in the conversation with him. He was that kind of guy. And then we stayed in contact as I was starting to get more involved with AFRS at the time and do more things. So that was my connection with Dan Sharpless and kind of the Indiana University program from that standpoint. Kristen or Tara, either one of you fortunate enough to ever meet Dan at all?
Yeah. So Dan was my actual advisor.
Okay.
I think it was during the time Julie was part-time advising. Dan was my go-to advisor, and I actually did do some field work at Kilauea military camp after my sophomore year of college. So I got to go to Hawaii for a summer. I was there about 10 weeks and learned the program, and that was really my very first. We didn't really call it MWR there, but we knew it was run by the Army, and we were serving military families and things like that. So I worked very closely with Dan on that, and then he helped guide the rest of my collegiate journey, making sure I did all the work to graduate and get through. So definitely worked with Dan quite a bit. You know, talking about him brings up all kinds of memories of my time there, walking through Julie's office to get to his office. So.
Yeah, great guy. Tara, any memories of Dan?
Definitely. He was the one that said, "No, you're not going back to lifeguard or teach swim lessons again. You need to stretch," as Julie said. And I was like, "Oh gosh, well, what am I going to do?" And he suggested the Scotland internship with Navy MWR, which again I had never heard of. So. And I still have not been to KMC, but he mentioned it at the time, so I know he was involved in Kilauea military camp even then, and talking it up.
Yeah. Icon in the world of recreation, and really was a key person in Armed Forces recreation along the ride. He's the Pat Hardens of the world, and a few others that really did pave the way to make sure that the military weren't forgotten, and the things that were happening around the world in terms of recreation weren't forgotten, and kept us aligned closely with NRPA to their contacts. So I'm proud to be on the board of directors, kind of having that voice for the military again, because we had quite a gap there for a while, and so I'm trying to carry it on. I've got the ghosts of Dan behind me, pushing me to do things sometimes, but great men and great mentors for sure. So, Julie,
Legacy.
give us an update. It's a little bit different world. Parks and Recreation had its own space and was very dedicated. And there's something. I mean, sports management has kind of been out there, but it almost kind of was an offshoot at one time of Parks and Recreation, and now it's its own very clear identity. Matter of fact, last time I looked, I think it's like the number 10 or 11th most popular major. Every school that never even thought about Parks and Recreation now has a sports management degree, because that's where the interest is, the money is, so to speak. So, how does that work at Indiana? Can you give us kind of a state of
Sure.
the field here?
Yeah, I think I joke with other people in our department because, and I kind of told John a little bit of this. We used to be the School of Hyper, right? Health, Physical Education, and Recreation. And then we turned to the School of Public Health. Well, and then we were a department within the School of Public Health, which was Recreation, Park, and Tourism Studies. And then we had a new leader come in and we became the Department of Health and Wellness Design. And a lot of us were like, yeah, it's a cool name, but we're buried, right? No one knows what that really is, or a student wouldn't really know what that is. So we are fortunate. We have a new leader, and he announced that we are creating a new department, and that name has not been really figured out yet. But basically, it will be a department pulling sport management, parks and recreation in the outdoors, and tourism, hospitality, and event management together, which is fantastic. And so it will have a name that reflects everything that we do. But the interesting part, and you're exactly right, there are so many sport marketing and management majors, but there are only so many jobs, right? And so what I am most proud of in my Foundations of Parks, Recreation, and the Outdoors course, it is an elective for those sport marketing and management students. So there are semesters where I have way more sport marketing students in the class than Parks and Rec majors, because there's just so many of them. And so I always tell my colleagues, I am opening the door to Parks and Recreation for a lot of the folks that take that class, because I'm not sure that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of sport marketing jobs or management jobs out there. But if any of them can just get a taste of Parks and Recreation or military recreation or campus recreation, it's another path for them. So I try to, broaden kind of the scope for them so that they're not so laser focused on professional sports. So I do feel like, a lot of my colleagues at other universities are, kind of saying it's doom and gloom for Parks and Recreation, but I don't feel that way. I feel that every community still is going to have a Parks and Recreation department. So it's our job to let people know that this is a profession, and that you can get jobs in military recreation or in community parks and rec or state parks, national parks. And so it's really just educating people. And I feel like you're doing that all the time in your areas, and everyone is within Parks and Recreation. But I'm an optimist, and I feel like things are getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a interesting working group, kind of a combination of past externship folks from the academy, academy members, and also some NRPA staff that are working in together. There's a website, just search choice career. Yeah, and it's a nice starting point, but it's only scratching the surface to get out there and hopefully promote Parks and Recreation and the goodness that we do as a career, even getting out to the high schools. You don't necessarily need to go to college. Hate to say that. You can do college at a different time, but you can get introduced. Matter of fact, a lot of our MWR careers come folks that didn't go to college, and they grew up, and some of our best workers are folks that just grew in and took the massive training opportunities that we do have. And then you get to a point in your career or management where maybe you can make that choice to say, well, I want to get a higher education. And who knows, maybe you'll get a little support financially for that education at that time. So just a different way to approach a career. And so it behooves us all to kind of get out there and really promote the opportunities and the goodness that is happening in communities out there, whether you stay in just parks and recreation or you want to dovetail into this thing called military recreation from that. So thank you for what you're doing, and at least you're talking about it, so you won't have the John Prue of 2026 that says, I had no idea there was anything called MWR. Well, maybe you will. They still blow off classes. So
yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up. And I had a bunch of other stuff that we potentially get to. I knew we didn't have enough time for this. They have a round 2 on this one. But favorite IU moment for everybody. It could be you graduating to just a fun experience or something you'd like to share that you can share on a podcast that's going to go live or is live right now. Okay. Kristen,
Julie, do they still have? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Kristen, favorite IU moment?
There's so many, but I think one of my all-time favorites, I was very involved with the intramural sports program, both as an employee and as an athlete. And I happened to end up on a basketball team. I'm not a basketball player, but I happened to end up on a team with some friends who made it to the intramural championship, which at the time was played on main court at Assembly Hall. So I did get to play a few minutes of a basketball game at Assembly Hall. So that's my all-time Hoosier memory.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's good. Tara.
Maybe Julie can answer this. There was a legend when I was there that you are not a true co-ed until you've had a kiss in the well house at the stroke of midnight. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I was able to do that with with my military Marine boyfriend from my college internship. Was able to have a kiss at midnight in the well house.
There you go. And Julie, yours? You're there all the time, so maybe that moment hasn't come yet. So,
no, I will say I met my husband as a master's student at IU, so I will say yes, that is probably my defining moment during my master's program. But yes, so I met my husband at IU.
Okay, that's safe considering you'll probably listen to this podcast at some point. So good for you. All right. Well, I wish we had more time. I really want to thank all of you for sharing your stories and celebrating Dan Sharpless and the goodness he has done and just all the pros that have been put out in the field by Indiana University. And I know we appreciate it. There's a lot of good people and only a handful of them that we mentioned or were part of the video, and of course all yourself as well. So again, thanks for your time, and to everyone out there, that's it for today's show on the front line. Thanks again to our guests today and their amazing journey in the profession. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another great episode. So on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
Technology isn't just changing devices, it's changing communities. It's changing how we connect, how we lead, and how we create experiences that bring people together. Because today's parks and recreation industry isn't only about fields, facilities, and programs. It's about innovation, smart systems, digital experiences, and the people transforming ideas into impact. Behind every thriving community, there are leaders embracing change, As technology evolves, parks and recreation professionals are discovering new ways to create safer spaces, stronger connections, and better experiences for everyone. This is where conversations meet innovation, where ideas become action, where parks and technology come together. Welcome to Parks and Tech Collective, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.